Okay, spread on this table are pretty much all the parts we're going to be using. There's only one thing missing here, and that's a lights filter, which you'll need for modding the PlayStation eye camera. The reason being is I've already recorded all that on how to mod this, and I used a floppy diskette, and I don't have any of that left. I've chucked the rest of it that I didn't need away. So that's the only thing missing from this table. So yes, watch the entire video because you'll need to see how we do that as well, and there'll be an extra component here which isn't featured on this table, but everything else is what I'll be using. So obviously number one is my frame, which I 3D printed. If you don't have a 3D printer, you can buy these online. It won't be this design, exact design, but it'll be something along these lines. I've seen a seller on eBay selling them. But if you go to the description, I'll put links to all the things I'm using here, or pretty much all the stuff. You don't need to worry about these. These are just wire strippers. You know, I'm sure you can find them if you need to. But yeah, but if you need to, if you kind of concerned that you can't make one of these because you don't have a 3D printer, people have made these out of, they've cut it out of cardboard and stuck everything together that way, or using wire and wood and other sort of things. So as long as you get a frame which you can hold everything together with, it doesn't matter as long as it works, right? And if you download this model from that I'm using here, in there's a, I think it's PDF or JPEG, doesn't really matter, but in there is a diagram which you can use as a template because it'll have measurements and everything you need. So at least you can, if you need to make one out of something yourself and just use your own innovation, at least you have something to work your measurements to. So you don't need to 3D print it if you can't, but this obviously makes it a lot easier. Okay, so put that to the side. What else do you need? Well, we need some wire, of course. Need some solder. 3 of these infrared diodes, LEDs, whatever you want to call them. Again, look in the description. I put links to exactly these parts you need. You'll need one of these 1/4 watt resistors. They're really tiny little things. They'll come in a massive pack like that. They're really super cheap, but you can't buy them individually, so you'll get them as a pack, and we need one of those. A sacrificial USB cable, which will be powering the LEDs. This is a particularly short one, but you probably want to have a longer one for your project. The reason why mine is so short is I'm going to be powering it with one of these mobile phone power banks, so I can just connect. So that will be just pop into my pocket, and then it will just trail down from the headset, and it will just be tether free. Because that's what I wanted for this one. So I've got a short USB cable, so that's why I'm using one. So obviously base your needs on on how far you need to get to a power point, a USB port, etc. You can obviously also power this off a phone charger as well that plugs into a wall socket if you need to, but anything that delivers 5 volts basically. Okay, so glue gun. If you don't have that, you could probably get away with it and just use electrical insulation tape to wrap everything you need. So that would work. So it's not necessary, but this is very handy to have. These are pretty cheap as well. My wire stripper. I've got some heat shrink tubing here. This is helpful, but again, you could probably get away with it by using this tape because everything is very tightly connected on here. With the LEDs. With these diodes are going to be so close. When it's all connected up and the wires are all going to be, it's going to be difficult for them not to touch if you just solder it and leave it bare, and then obviously it won't work because it will cause it'll short circuit it effectively. So yeah, so you're going to have to kind of tape around these or use the heat shrink just to separate everything. But we'll see that later. Just got little wire snippers and those. Soldering iron, don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah, and I think that kind of covers it. But so this is going to be 2 parts. So the first part we will be doing making this part of the TrackIR. The second part will be this. So I'll put a timestamp. So if you've already done this, you can jump between them if you need to. And you can get to this part because we need to open this up and then do some crazy stuff to it. But yeah, so that's a kind of that's a project in itself. So that's why I'm breaking it up into 2 sections. But first we will do just this. If you're concerned about how, you know, electronics and, you know, you have no clue about stuff, don't worry, it is really, really simple. I'll pop up a picture, and this is what it looks like basically. It's just basically a really basic circuit, and you can see it's just positive, negative on the diodes, and all the way around it's just basically a circle with the transistor. It can be either on the start of the circuit or the end of the circuit, it doesn't matter on resistors, but basically this is what it looks like. It's very, very simple. Right, so the first thing we will do is we'll grab our diodes here and we'll put them in the frame. If you saw the picture, you noticed that all of them have a long arm and a short arm. Okay, so one is positive, one is negative. The short arm is positive and the long one is negative. So that's really important because you need to have them arranged in the right orientation in your circuit. Positive goes to negative, then goes to positive, then goes to negative. You know, just like in standard electronic stuff. So nothing too clever and not too difficult to understand. So I'll put them in here and I'll show you. So we'll just put it in this way. That's fine. Doesn't really matter. So I'll put the positive in at the top, which is the short one. Let's put it in here. Get the right way around. So you can see, there you go. Positive, negative. So negative needs to go to a positive one. So that long arm needs to go to a short one. So if I put it in here and we just arrange it in that way as well. And there you go, you can see that. Short, long, then short, long, right? So yeah, easy rule. Okay, there you go. So that makes it easy. I'll just bend these out a little bit, and you can see that'll be the way the circuit goes. It'll, you know, so the positive will go through here, go around there, negative, go to that one, go round, and go round in that circuit. Yeah. So I know I'm doing it like really basic stuff, but I'm trying to make this really kind of a step idiot's kind of guide really, which is why it's going to be mostly in real time as well. So maybe a long video, but this is for people that, you know, really don't have confidence in this sort of stuff, and I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible. So yeah, it's going to be a long video for that reason. So I'll try and make it as real time as possible. The only thing I'll probably do is, if I'm kind of messing around with cable, the wires, trying to twist them around before soldering, there may be a few jump cuts for that, just to speed up those tiny elements. But on the whole, it'll be real time, and really this should only take you about half an hour in total. But we got that in there now, so we can put that to one side and go to the next part, which is our USB cable. Okay, so this is my USB cable. It is different to the one I showed earlier, so don't worry about that. It's only because that one wasn't quite suitable. Because when we strip this wire down, there'll be 4 little wires and they'll be color coded, and that's kind of important. And that other wire, I stripped it down. It didn't have, they weren't color coded wires inside, so it was going to be quite confusing. So I decided to grab another wire, and hopefully this should be okay. And I'll know straight away. Yeah, I can see that there's 4 little wires in there, and I can see they're all separated with their own colour. Okay, so let's strip this down. Don't need that anymore. Strip it back quite a lot. Okay, right, okay, and now you can see it's 4 wires. 4 very fine wires indeed, in fact. Okay, you can see that, and you can see it's red, white, green and black. Right, so the only ones we need here are the black and red ones. So the red one is positive, the black one is negative, or the ground wire. These are data ones, the green and the white ones. We don't need those, so I could just slice those off, get them out of the way. And the only ones we're going to use is those 2. Okay. It's good to have a wire cutter for this sort of job, because if you try and kind of use these snips and try to take that sleeve off, it's such a fine wire, it's actually very difficult. So using a wire stripper which does it, does kind of has a lighter touch is much better. Well, hopefully it doesn't tear the wire. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, you can see that. I mean, it's such a fine wire. It's easily cut. So using a pair of wire strippers which does the job perfectly for you is much nicer. So there you go. Perfect. Let's take a little bit more off. Okay. Right. So that should be okay. Right. So that's our USB cable. You can see that, and I said the red is the positive, and positive on here is the short one, right? So there you go. So that'll be how it goes. That'll connect up to that one, and the black ground negative one will eventually basically tie up to that one, but with our resistor in there as well, which we're solder on to one of these arms. Doesn't really matter which one, but we'll be like that. So we're kind of ready now to get started because we have everything here, and we just need to get our wire, slice some bits together, and just solder it all together. Basically, as simple as that. But clearly, it is all in a tight space. So let's see how we get on. Okay, let's just clear the deck a little bit and move on to the next part. So we're ready to start soldering, and soldering iron is on. It's just heating up. And the first bit I'm going to put in, actually, I'm going to put the resistor in, and we're going to solder it directly onto the positive wire on the top here. And there's two kind of really stiff wires, so this is a little bit of a tricky one, so we'll see how I get on. But the way I found to do this before is just try and twist it around. So just bend it and just try and twist this thing around, and then it just makes it easier to solder them together. So that's sort of working right. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so you can see, I don't know how much you can see there, but I've just twisted the resistor around it, and this way it's going to make it a lot easier for me to solder. Let's see if the soldering iron is hot enough. Oh yes, it's heating up. Just got some flux here, this helps as well. So yeah, so I'll put that in there to heat up a little bit. It's a really cheap soldering iron, so it takes a little while to heat up. Just to make it a little bit easier. Just using this is my solder, I'm going to use a bit of soldering flux as well. Or solder paste, what's called, that really helps as well. It just prevents oxidization, which when it oxidizes, it prevents the solder sticking, and that can be a bit of a problem when you do this sort of job. So yeah, you can get some solder with a flux core, or you can just get the separate stuff. I think this is just normal solder, but yeah, using the flux paste helps. Okay, that should hopefully be hot enough now. Right, the way to solder, if you've never done this before, and I'm not a great soldering guy, but I'll show you anyway, is you don't tend to heat the solder directly. What you do, you put it under the wire, so you heat the wire and you put the solder on top, and it will just basically just burn through, and it should basically just wick into the wire. That's the plan anyway. So, and that should work in a minute. Yeah, really cheap solder. It takes a little while for this thing to heat up, but that seems to be working from what I can tell. Yeah, there you go. I think that's not a bad job, in fact. So we'll just have a closer look. Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, gets hot, quite hot as well, so be careful about that. There you go, there's the first solder. Pretty happy with that. Okay, so I need to isolate the wires, because you can see the problem is, I mentioned this before, when you put them down into this channel, you can see they're touching. So, and that's no good to us, because it means they're going to short circuit and they just won't work. So we need to use either electrical tape or heat shrink. I'm going to use heat shrink because it's a lot easier. I'll do those two. It's probably that one. So yeah, you just put it on there. And we need a match. In fact, what I can do, I could do it on both, but I'll just do it on, in fact, so actually, all you need to do, although I could put it on both just to tidy it up, I only need to isolate one of the wires. So I could just do one, so I'll save myself a job, and I'll just leave that bare, because it doesn't really matter. It'll be covered with a hot glue later on anyway, so as long as that's isolated from the other wire, that's all we need to do. So we can save ourselves a bit of a job. Just light a match and heat it up, and should shrink, and there you go. That should be perfect. Yeah, just be careful with like naked flames on the PLA when you print this stuff, because obviously it will start to melt if you apply too much heat to it. Yeah, so yeah, just kind of put the flame near it. The heat shrink pretty much works straight away, so you don't have to kind of leave the flame on constantly. Just put it close to it in a way, and it'll do the job. So now we have our first bit of solder. So that's good. And in this circuit, it means we want this that will be going to, in fact, sorry about that, I'm confusing myself. Where's my wire? So that's the start. That's the start, and that will be our positive. So that will go from the red one here, technically. So that will go onto there. I will put a little bit more extra wire on here between it, but that's essentially where it's going to go. So the rest of the soldering is now completing the circuit around here. So this needs to connect to there. Okay. So the best thing to do is leave it up, leave it, bend it up a little bit so we can actually get to it. And if I bend it in the channel and just bend it around, we get our wire. And we can add it on. Don't worry about too much about the length, as long as it's more than you need, really, because when we solder the other side, we can just shorten it as much as we need to. So yeah, I'll just do a little bit extra, just so it'll give me a bit of freedom if I make any errors. So wire stripper, just take it down. And as before, we just need to twist this wire around here. And solder this together. Okay. Bit of flux on there, I find that just helps. And as before, hopefully that's in the picture. Soldering iron at the bottom, solder at the top. yeah, when you're soldering, make sure you've got decent ventilation, because if it's lead, it's a little bit poisonous, so you need to be careful you don't breathe in too many of the fumes. Okay, so that's that one done. See another one done, nice and easy. And this needs to connect to that down here, and you can see I've got a ton of slack here. Actually, oh no, actually, wrong one, isn't it? That one's going to be to the positive. Never mind. That's fine. I made a little bit of a mistake, but that wire's going to go on there anyway. I just did it in the wrong order. So yeah, that's going to go there. So excuse me, excuse my incompetence. That's no problem. Okay, snip. That's perfect anyway, we need that there, so that's cool. Okay. Of course, if you get bored of watching me doing all this soldering stuff, just forward a few minutes, because I am going to just basically just let this keep on rolling and do this job in real time. So yeah, it may be boring for a lot of you guys out there, but if you flick ahead a little bit, you'll see how things are progressing, and you'll see how it kind of is all how it develops into the circuit. But I figured, yeah, I'm just going to let you guys choose how you want to watch this, and if I just record it just as I'm doing it, you can just see how easy this job is. And if this isn't something you've done before, you can just watch the whole thing and you just see me, just see how it comes along. It's dead easy. So I think that's enough on there. Yeah, it's not a lot of solder, that's okay, that'll do. So this wire now connects to that part of that infrared diode there. So as before, I'll just remind you, positive, negative, negative to positive. Yeah, I tend to just repeat myself as well, just for myself, because it's one of those things, you don't want to mess this up. It's one of those things that you think you might get wrong. So I keep reminding myself during it, because yeah, I don't want to do a do-over on this after I've gone so far into it. I want to make sure I get this job done right. Okay, so take some more off. Actually, I can take back quite a bit. I've got plenty of slack here. But yeah, that's the idea. Don't worry about having an extra long wire, because you just shave it down. I just do it on purpose, so I know I can. It's difficult to mess up. If you do it too short, you've gone wrong by that point. But if it's too long, you can always cut it short. So as before, just gonna twist it round. It's a little bit awkward, but so yeah. Sorry if you can't really see it in the picture very well, but yeah, I'm just twisting it round. Like so. It's quite long, so if I just push it in. Just want to make sure there's no interaction, because one thing you want to bear in mind is you don't want any of the bare bits touching any other bare bits on the other side of the circuit. So yeah, I could put heat shrink on more of these things, but I'm not going to do it unless I have to, because if there's a collision between a bare wire, then I'll do that, but I'm just trying to make it easy for myself, so I'll just do it where I need it. Yeah, it's not maybe the tidiest way of doing it, but it's not needed to do, it's not necessary to do any more work than you need to do on this. So again, back with the flux. And God, this thing's getting a bit hot on the handle. Okay. Right. I think that's okay. Yeah, I'm probably not doing myself any favours getting the fumes in my face, but I don't do this a lot, so I'm sure I'll survive. Okay, so that one's done. Just let it cool down a sec. Yeah, it cools down quite quickly. So what I can do, I can push this down into the channel now. This wire. Let's get out of the way. That's okay. There you go. So yeah, you can see it's pushed down into the channel out of the way, and there's no collision of bare wires, so that's good. I will need to. Actually, what I need to do? I might be alright. I might put a bit of heat shrink on that side just to be safe. I don't need much of a wire to join these two. That's pretty short there. Actually, I'm okay on that side. No, actually, I won't. I don't. Yeah, actually, I think just to be safe, let's get a bit of heat shrink. Because if this goes wrong, then it's not fun, really. So let's just remove any element of risk. So I just need a little bit in there, just to cover that bit. So not a lot, just where it curves around, so there's no chance they can ever touch. Getting shorter than that. Okay. So that's perfect. That'll do. Matches. Getting close to the soldering iron there. Let's be careful. Right, yeah, and just as before, just quickly put it near the flame, and it'll just shrink and just tighten up. That's fine. There you go. So no problems now. Now can no matter what happens, they are now separated, so they can't touch. So I need to put some on either that one or some heat shrink on that one or that one. I'll put it on that one. Okay, so another bit of wire. Don't need a lot here, but I'll as before, I'll overcompensate to make my life easier. Got a bit of flux on my fingers, makes it a little bit greasy. Get a bit of tissue. Shut up. And I'll just stuck my finger in it. It's getting worse. Right. I hope this all works, afterwards. It's you don't know, do you? You don't know until you put these things together, until you plug it in, whether or not this thing will actually work in the end. But I am actually fairly confident that it will work just fine. I have made one of these before, so I'm not too concerned, guys. I'm sure this will be absolutely fine. My worst concern is somehow this doesn't record, and I've done all this work. Just bend that up, make it a bit easier. Just twist it around. Let's do some more soldering. yeah, I don't really do a lot of soldering. I didn't find a need for it, so that's why I got this cheap soldering iron from eBay. Ouch, that's hot. Damn, that was very hot. Ouch. Well, there you go. Fair warning, guys. I've just I'm okay. I'm alright. But yeah, that was damn hot. So be careful. Yeah, like I said, there you go, I burnt myself because I didn't do a lot of soldering. Yeah, so any kind of real fine soldering, I'm just no good at, because I'm pretty haphazard at this sort of stuff. Because it's quite a skill to solder, you know, fine electronics. And you see people doing some pretty close-up work, soldering onto little pads on on boards and stuff like that, doing on Arduino boards and stuff like that, and they make it look easy. But I tend to find it's actually, you know, it could be my equipment, I just don't have a good soldering iron, but you know, this cheap one does a job, but it's not like really tidy. But yeah, it does work. Yeah, so for basic jobs you can buy one from eBay for, you know, £5 or £6, and it does a job. A little bit burnt. And yeah, it gets the job done for just general wiring stuff. But yeah, anything decent, you know, anything more fine, you definitely need something better than this this piece of junk that I have here. I'll just cut this down a bit because it's far too long. I'll strip this down. Yeah, and just be careful not to burn yourself. Let's strip it down a bit more. So I'm always impressed by YouTubers that can just chat, you know, just when they're doing these sort of things like normal, and have and be very articulate. When I'm doing stuff like this, it's really difficult for me to concentrate on talking, and I'll listen back to this video and I know I sound a bit like I'm an idiot, but well, that's just because I'm not very skilled at doing recording live to camera. But yeah, I kind of do it. I've done it though as a challenge, because I did think about doing it in a slightly more slick, edited way, like a lot of my other videos, which work, you know, a lot better than this. But I thought I'd do this as a challenge, you know, and maybe just bore you in the process as I spend ages soldering this thing together. But yeah. So if you are watching this and up to now, congratulations, and I hope you haven't kind of fallen into a coma, because I know I'd be bored listening to me droning on. But I thought I'd fill in some of this dead time by saying just some random stuff. Okay. That's good. Now, that's quite hot. Go. Little touch test for heat. It's okay now. Let's try and just push that into the channel there. Right. That's all looking good. So of course now, yeah, like I said before, you know, that wire's far too close there. When I bend it round, it's going to touch it. So we're going to put some heat shrink on there. But we don't need to put it on yet, because I can solder the wire on here. So you can see the circuit is basically virtually complete now. And my USB cable, where have I put that? Somewhere around here. There we go. is the next part of the circuit. So there's the positive up that side and negative there. So we just need to get this all together now and put that in there. So we're almost done. We're actually almost done. So that's good. Didn't take too long, did it? Well, obviously it takes longer because I'm talking and trying to show the camera, you know, all the bits. Well, the best I can. Hopefully it was kind of clear because it's kind of difficult to do, but I'm sure you got an idea of what's going on here. It's not too complicated, right? So at this point, actually, I will get the USB cable in because that'll be the next bit that's going to be soldered on. So you can see there's a little channel there for the USB cable at the bottom. So I'm going to see if I can get it in there. It can be a little bit tight, so this may not work very well, but we'll see how it goes. It's really hot today. I'm feeling a bit sweaty, guys. So yeah, I'm feeling a bit, my hands feeling a little bit so it's pretty tight in there. Well, I'm just going to pause a sec. I'm going to get a pair of pliers and see if I can just wedge this in there. So hang on a sec. Okay, I squeezed the USB cable into that channel there, and what I have done, I've actually stripped it back even further so we can see the two wires from the USB cable, the red and the black, are a lot longer, because I can now just solder these directly onto these ends. So that goes there, the red one positive, and the negative one to that one here. So yeah, that wire I put on there right at the beginning is unnecessary, so I will cut that down. And we'll do that now, so let's just snip it back. So we just need to solder that to that end. And yeah, don't keep going near the soldering iron. Twist it around. Yeah, if you're kind of good at electronics and you're seeing my really terrible amateur kind of ways, don't criticise me in the comments, guys. You know, I'm not good at this sort of stuff, but because I don't do it often. But it's there to show you that anyone can do it, really. You know, even like some sort of klutz like me, really. And yeah, and this is the second time I've done this, so you know, it hasn't got any more tidier, but it is coming together nicely, I have to admit. I'm pretty happy with the results so far. So you go there, I've twisted it around, and we'll just solder that. And we'll be done in the next few minutes, won't we? So I just need to do the other wire after this. Solder, there you go. And I can test it, and well, not quite test it because we still need to do the PlayStation 3i camera, and if you thought this was tricky, you're going to enjoy that, guys. I've already recorded that. I recorded that ages ago, in fact, but I didn't do this bit, so that'll be really easy to edit into the video, since I just need to basically paste that onto the back of all this stuff in the editor. Okay. That wire's done. I might be able to just get the whole finger down into the channel to make it tidy. Yeah. Well, that's actually a bit neater than my first job, actually, because on the other one I did, there's bits sticking out, but it's kind of flush inside. It's really good. So that's tidier than the last job I did. So that's good. I've improved. And the final wire. So yeah, at the end of this I will actually test it, but you won't see it until the very end of the video, since technically I haven't done the PlayStation 3 camera yet, which will be the second part. So I'll know if this works in very shortly, but you're only going to know when I edit it in, when I pretend it's all been done at the same time. But I'm letting wind of my secrets. I forgot actually. Yeah, I nearly made a big boo-boo, guys. I need to put some heat shrink on the end. Thanks for reminding me, guys. I'll remember this. But if you were shouting at the screen telling me to do it, then thank you, because maybe I heard you from the future. Yeah, I'll just leave that. Do we need such a big piece on there? No, I don't care. Just leave it on there. Actually, I'll cut it down a tiny bit. Right. Do this. Make another attempt at this. Alright, that's right. Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to get a job being some sort of professional soldering person, if that even exists as a job. But that shouldn't really matter for this sort of this project. And yeah, if you do one of these yourself and you follow my guide and it all works and you're happy, yeah, drop a comment. Drop a comment. Let me know how you got on. And don't forget to like this video, since you know, I'm doing this to help you out. I've already done this before, so I don't really need to do this one. I'm doing it as a service. So yeah, if you like my stuff, don't forget to hit that like. And if you're not a subscriber, why not? Eh? Why not? If I was you, I'd subscribe. Right, that's all attached, and then I can just put that over there. And that's the last solder, and all I need to do now is heat shrink, and we're done. And I'll take the soldering iron out so I don't set fire to myself. We did pretty well that SimCat didn't come in and jump on my stuff and try and kill herself, so that's good news. So all in all, success. And I'll do. And so all I need to do now is get my glue gun and just cover it all up, or indeed just use some, you know, if you just got this insulation tape, you just wrap it around and just hide everything, just to keep it all good. So, but I mean, yeah, one thing it's good at using, at least one thing you probably want to do if you don't use the glue gun, is just put a bit of super glue down there just to hold it in. I'll do that anyway, in fact, even if I do the glue gun, just to hold it in place, because it will probably come out over time if you're not careful. But yeah, I'm done here for the moment. I will get the glue gun going, and we'll start just kind of covering all this stuff up just to tidy it up. Okay, so I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so while the glue gun heats up, which is almost there, it's ready oozing, I'm just going to drop just a bit of super glue in here, just to hold this in. Okay. So that's a bit boring, you're just not hearing anything other than me just putting glue in there, but that's done. Does that make it dry any quicker? Blowing it? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Anyway, okay. Anyway, so yeah, so the other thing I've done is I pushed all the wires into the channel, which is kind of nice actually, because it's not a very big channel, but it's enough to get the wires in if you get it right. And you can see, so it's nice and tidy. So that's good. And the only thing now I need to do is to get just to cover the channel with hot glue. So we'll do that now. There's a glue gun. See if you can see what I'm doing here. And it's yeah, just to keep just do it as tidy as you can, just to cover that channel and just insulate those wires, those bare wires, keep everything protected and inside and just keep it all inside that little cavity there. Handy thing, these glue guns. It's not looking too bad. Let's make sure I keep away from that super glue. So the next part after this, because you're not done sadly, we do need to modify a PlayStation Eye 3 camera, or PlayStation 3i camera, I think that's what they're called. And yeah, that's a different type of job going on there. It's a little bit tricky, but I have hopefully made it as easy to follow as possible. So yeah, if you've done this, then you have to do that at least. And once you've done that, you've got yourself a working TrackIR, which I will demonstrate. In the video, at the end of the video. Just going to cover the wire as well. Maybe give a little bit of coverage down here. It may get a little bit ugly with my messy gluing. But yeah, as I said, this is a yeah, it's basically up to now it's been real time. The camera stuff is a little bit more edited, but I think that's okay. It still shows you everything you need to see in there, but let's take that out. But for at least this part, you've seen how to do it basically from scratch. So hopefully this helps for this part, and it's still a little bit sticky, hasn't dried up yet, but yeah, you can see there we go. We have, I might tidy this up a little bit more in a second, but you don't need to see any more of this, but you can see there you go. There is a TrackIR, all fairly tidy and made up. Alright, so that's the end of part one, which was probably quite lengthy. And we'll move on to part two now, and that will be modifying the PlayStation 3i camera. Okay, so before we dive in, let's go through the parts that you'll need for this modification. So the first thing is obviously you'll need the PlayStation 3i camera, and you see I've got two cameras here. They look pretty much identical from outwardly, and there is a difference. There's an older model and a newer model. You do want to use the older model, and I'm going to show you how you identify the difference. Is if I come up close, this has a dome-shaped lens. And that's the one you want to use. Don't worry about model numbers. All you need to worry about is, does it have a dome-shaped lens? And that's the correct one, okay? The newer model has a flat face lens. And the reason why you want the older model is because when we remove the infrared filter as part of this modification, that's accessible on this one. It's not accessible on the newer model, okay? So that's why. I have seen videos of people actually doing the same mod, skipping the removal of the infrared filter and just putting the light filter in the back and saying it still works. I don't know, how well it compares, but I would say do it the right way, and this way you're going to get, the best performance. So get the older one, okay? So that's our camera. The other thing you'll need is the light filter, and to keep the cost down, I'm using a floppy disk. So I see I've cut a segment out because I've already done the mod. But yes, 3.5 inch disc from the olden days. Maybe you're young enough you've never seen one of these before, but you can buy these on eBay as well. Or if you're lucky enough, you might just have one laying around. So you just need to break one of these apart and then get to the magnetic surface. The other tool is an X-Acto knife. Okay. So you can see like really sharp edge and a pointy. Very pointy, and this is really quite important as well because it's actually quite difficult to remove the infrared filter, and that's why you need something quite stabby like this, something with precision. So make sure you get the right tools to the job because this is really helpful. And the other thing you'll need is some screwdrivers to open this up. Okay, so that's all the parts you'll need. Let's move on to doing the modification. The first step is to get to the screws at the back, and you need to remove these small covers. They are very hard plastic and can be quite difficult to remove and dig out. They are very well stuck in. I used a drill to pluck them out, so just a quick tip if you struggle like I did. Now you have access to the screws at the back of the casing, you can go ahead and remove them. Next, we need to remove the back. There's clips holding the rear casing to the front side, and you need to be quite vigorous here, prizing this apart. Don't worry, it is strong plastic and should hold up to the abuse. You will hear some snapping noises, and that's just the clips releasing. I will let this play out so you can see how I was able to open the back. Just take note of where I'm inserting the flathead screwdriver, as these are the points where the clips are located. Just take your time, and with some care you will get there. These screws I'm pointing to need to be removed next. With the screws removed, we can now pull out the main board. Carefully place that to one side, as we don't need to do anything with that. After all that work, we now have access to the all-important lens. It will fall out easily, so just lift it out with your fingers from the casing. I'm just making this mark on the outside so I know which side is up for when we reassemble the camera. This is the infrared filter that we need to remove. It's held in place by a lip over the edge. You can see this as a ring around the edge of the glass. Taking our hobby knife, we will cut away at that lip to release the glass. The technique here is to use the sharp point of the knife, circling the ring and poking in that point to break up that plastic. It will take a few minutes of effort, so just take your time. Eventually you'll be able to pop out the filter like this. Afterwards, clean out the debris with compressed air, or if you blow directly into the cavity, close your eyes or wear eye protection, as some of those bits could be small pieces of glass from the infrared filter, so be very careful. We are now ready to install the lights filter. Take your 3.5-inch disc and crack it open and remove the disc inside. Using a pair of scissors, cut a section from the disc. Shape a piece that fits into the gap and drop it into place. So we're done, and now we can reassemble the camera. And the final screw. Congratulations, you have successfully modified your PlayStation 3 iCamera, and if you followed this tutorial in sequence, you have made yourself a complete DIY TrackIR. And now we'll move on to the final steps of installing the driver and Opentrack software. Download and install the CL PS3 iDriver from this website. There's a link in the description to this page. It will cost $2.99 to purchase. This driver is required to enable the PlayStation 3 iCamera to be recognised by Windows. The driver will also install a program called CLI Test onto your PC, and this will enable you to test the camera, and as you can see, it's all working. The white lights are the infrared emitters being picked up by our modded PlayStation 3 iCamera. All we need now is to download and install Opentrack. Opentrack is open source and free to download. Opentrack emulates TrackIR head tracking. This means any title that supports TrackIR will work with our DIY built TrackIR using Opentrack. This is Opentrack running, you can see it working. The octopus is moving in line with the motion of our DIY TrackIR. So technically, if we launch a game with TrackIR support now, head tracking will work. As this may be the first time you've used Opentrack, you will need to configure the software, so here is a super quick setup guide to get you up and running. Click on Options and bind a key for Center. This is for resetting the head tracking center position on the fly, so this is very important. Next, go to Output and take a note of my settings. TrackIR supports 6 degrees of movement, however I only have yaw and pitch active, which means left and right and up and down movements are tracked. You may find it more comfortable to restrict the head tracking motions like I have here. Next to that, I have the invert boxes checked. This inverts the output signals sent to the game. So this depends on the game. So for instance, if you look left, however, the screen moves right in the game, which means it's opposite. And if you look up, yet it looks down in the game, then you need to check or uncheck these boxes as required to reverse the signals. Now click the hammer next to the input option and then the model tab. Follow the instructions for calibration and click the start calibration. You should really run the calibration sequence from your seated gaming position with the TrackIR mounted to your headset. This demonstration is just to ensure you complete this step before you start gaming. And that is as far as we are going to go into getting started with Opentrack, as this is a TrackIR build guide and not a detailed Opentrack tuning video. But nevertheless, this will get you up and running. You will likely return to the menus to tune Opentrack further. You can adjust sensitivity of the tracking and change settings to reduce any lag. You can experiment with all that in your own time. After all this effort, this is the DIY built TrackIR we made in this video, working in ACC. So we're at the end of this project, and if you are interested in building your own DIY TrackIR, I hope you find this guide helpful. Yes, it is a long video. I wanted every step to be clear and easy to follow, and I think we achieved that goal today. Making your own TrackIR isn't terribly difficult, a couple of hours of work at most. And it works amazingly well and very cheap to make. This was quite a challenging video to edit, with many hours invested on my part to bring you this guide, but very much worth it, and I'm glad I did. And if you are glad I did as well, please hit the like to support my channel and subscribe. So let's end this one. Thank you very much for watching. I will be back soon with something new, so stay tuned. Happy simming out there, and bye bye for now.